right? So the program which we are going to discuss today, that is the MGNREGA, right? So first of all, by this MGNREGA, what is the full form of this MGNREGA? That is the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. Okay, so please bear this in mind. That is the Mahatma Gandhi, okay, National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. Okay, so this is what we mean by MGNREGA. So first of all, let me tell you that in today's this lecture, what we are going to discuss broadly, right? So if we discuss about the broad discussion, that what we are going to discuss broadly in this today's lecture. So the scheme we are going to discuss, that is the MGNREGA, right? So all are familiar with this MGNREGA, right? So in this today's lecture, what we will discuss about the MGNREGA. The first is a brief introduction about the MGNREGA. We can say that we will discuss about it. The first thing about it, this is important, right? And the second thing which we will discuss in this today's lecture, right? So that is, we can say, the aim of MGNREGA, aim or purpose of MGNREGA, for what purpose MGNREGA was launched by the government of India, right? And the third thing we will discuss, that is the employment under MGNREGA. Okay, so third point we will discuss that also. And the fourth point which we will discuss under this lecture, that is the implementation of the scheme, right? Implementation of the scheme, right? So that's the next point which we'll discuss under this. And the next is the important points, right? So which will be discussed under today's lecture. Important points about MGNREGA, that is there. And then the next will be the benefits of MGNREGA. Okay, next will be the benefits of MGNREGA. Okay, and after the benefits, we are going to discuss about the fund allocation in the budget. Okay, so we will discuss about the fund allocation, okay, in the budget. So that is the next program, which next subtopic which we'll discuss under this. And the next fund allocation, you can change it for the budget allocation. That is more appropriate if we write it here, right? And the next important thing or point which we'll discuss here, that is the funding pattern. Okay, funding pattern. That is the next important point which we'll discuss here, right? And the next thing we will be discussing, that will be the wage rate. Okay, what is the wage rate under MGNREGA? Wage rate under MGNREGA. So that's the next point which we'll discuss here. And the next thing which we'll discuss here, that who can be the beneficiary under MGNREGA, means who can work under MGNREGA, right? Who can be a beneficiary, who can be a beneficiary under MGNREGA. So that's the point, right? And the next topic which we'll discuss under this, that is the you can say that is the shift or change in nomenclature from NREGA to MGNREGA. From NREGA to MGNREGA, because its initial name was NREGA, right? So it was conceptualized as NREGA, not as MGNREGA. Right? So from NREGA to MNREGA. And the next thing which we'll discuss under this, that is the type of work which is allowed to the individuals. Right. The next thing which we'll discuss, that is the type of work. Okay, type of work. That will be the next thing which we'll discuss. And then next to that, there will be MNREGA and CSR. CSR means corporate social responsibility, right? So MNREGA and CSR, corporate social responsibility, right? And the last thing which we'll discuss about this, right? So that will be, we can say about this, that is the social audit. Okay, so that will be the social audit. So these are the various important points which we'll discuss about the MNREGA, right? So this we can say, right, is sort of the mind map which I made here. That is important for you for the brainstorming in the examination, right? So if an examination before starting writing essay or before starting writing the answer to a question, if you do it like this, then it will relieve you, right, from the mental stress for at least the next, you can say, uh, that duration of the time, right, which will take to write the answer, right? So that is why this is important to plan the things like this, right? So now we are going to discuss about the MNREGA, right? So first of all, about MNREGA, we are going to discuss this, right? We will discuss in very brief because in the civil services examinations, you don't have to write a very large reports or a very long case studies of, let's say, 10 pages, 20 pages or like that. You need to write only 150 or 200 words for writing an answer, right? So about MNREGA. So as far as the MNREGA is concerned, MNREGA was first proposed by the PV Narasimha Rao government, or the President PV Narasimha, Prime Minister PV Narasimha Rao, right? PV Narasimha Rao in 1991. But at that time, the scheme could not be implemented, or it cannot be pushed further due to certain issues, due to certain problems, right? And then after that, in 2005, the UPA 1 government, right, enacted the NREGA Act, right, enacted NREGA Act in 2005, the UPA 1 government. So this is the point, right? And after that, in 2006, the NREGA was implemented, right? Implementation of NREGA. It was implemented, right? And then after that, in 2008, there, there we saw the universalization of NREGA, right? Because before that it was on the pilot basis, but from 2008, the NREGA was introduced in the whole of India, right? So it means universalization of NREGA in 2008, right? And here is the implementation of NREGA in 2006, right? So please bear these 3-4 milestones in the journey of MNREGA, in the history of MNREGA. One is the first proposal during the PV Narasimha Rao government by the Prime Minister PV Narasimha Rao in 1991, but it could not be pushed further. Then in 2005, the UPA government under the Prime Ministership of Manmohan Singh, they brought the NREGA Act, right? So by bringing the NREGA Act, the right to work, or the right to employment, right to work, was made a legal right? So everybody in the rural area was given the right to, you can say, work, right? So basically, NREGA is known as a demand-driven scheme, right? It is not a supply-driven scheme. Demand-driven scheme because anytime an individual, when he feels necessary to work, right, he may approach the village panchayat, gram panchayat, right, and he may express his intention there to do the work, right? He may submit an application there that I need employment. And when an individual submits an application, then it is the obligation on the government to provide employment to that individual within 15 days of the submission of the application, right? So if the government fails to provide the work to individual within 15 days of submission of application, then the individual is entitled to the unemployment allowance, right? Then they will have to pay him the unemployment allowance. The government will have to pay the unemployment allowance to that applicant, right? So that is why anytime you can demand work, and the gram panchayats would be under obligations to provide you the work, right? Uh, Subject to the minimum number of days, right, prescribed in this act. That we'll discuss further. There is one query of Asika. That's what is UPA1. Basically, you know that after 2004, sorry, in 2005, in 2004, right, a coalition government was formed at the center, in the center, right? So because in 2004, the Vajpayee government term was completed, and then elections were held in 2004, and in those elections, uh, the this Congress emerged as the largest party, right? But it was not in position to form the government because it was lacking numbers. So that is why an and we can say alliance was formed, right, of some parties, and that alliance was given the name UPA, which is the United Progressive Alliance, right? So that alliance was given the name UPA, right? Because this UPA government completed two terms, one term from 2004 to 2009, and the another term, second term, is completed from 2009 to 2014. So that is why we commonly say the first term of this government as UPA1 and the second term of this government as UPA2. I hope it's clear to you, Asika. If you still have any doubt, you can put a message. So this is there, right? So now as far as the Manrega is concerned, Manrega is basically the uh, world's largest employment guarantee scheme, right? So this is such a scheme where the right to work is guaranteed to the citizens of a country, and it is world's largest employment guarantee scheme in the world. But yes, it should be noted that Manrega scheme is for the rural population only, right? So under the Mandeka scheme, only the rural individuals, right, or the individuals belonging to the rural India who are otherwise eligible to do the work can apply for job under Mandeka, and they will be given the job, right, within 15 days of the submission of their application, right? So please bear this in mind. One is this is a Manrega is a statutory scheme because a special act has been enacted by the parliament of the country, right, to give the right to work to people, to the individuals of the country. So one point is that. And second is Manrega is the world's largest employment guarantee scheme. And the third point is that this Manrega is for rural India only. It is not for the urban India, right? So now we will move further. Now there is the next thing is that what is the target or what is the purpose of Manrega, we can say, right? So that is the next important thing, right? So that is the you can say purpose of Manrega or objective of Manrega, right? So why the scheme? With what purpose the scheme was launched, right? So we know that every act, right, has an underlying assumption. Every act has an underlying premise, right? So you don't do any act in your life which don't have any purpose, right? Though it may be just a right entertainment, enjoyment, though the purpose can be that, but every action of the individual is guided by some purpose, right? Of rational individuals, I would like to say, right? You have joined my classes, there is a clear purpose behind that, right? You like to sit idle someday, there could be purpose behind that also. So similarly, whatever the programs, policies, schemes, the government plans, the government designs, the government implements or introduces, right? So those schemes, plans, and programs are, you can say, the a result of the needs which are underlying there, right? So as far as the Manrega was concerned, the purpose of Manrega was number one, since the independence of India and even before independence, India is such a country which was reeling under the poverty, which is still reeling under the poverty, right? So we are having a considerable percentage of our population which is living below the poverty line. And the second thing is the incidence of poverty is more on rural than on the urban sector, right? Second thing is that. And the third point we see that you can say as the society is progressing, as the society is developing, we are seeing that there are more employment opportunities which are being generated in the urban sector as compared to the rural sector, right? So that is why there is a tendency of the rural population or rural individuals or rural workers, right, to shift to the urban in search of employment, right? And this is a clear statistics which I will share with you later on today. That in the last 50 years, those uh, in the last 50 years, the rural population of India has come down, means decreased, and the urban population of India has increased. If we see the relative proportion of the urban and rural population in the total population of the country, right? So that has changed in favor of the urban India, right? So it means the proportion of the urban population is increasing in the total population of the country, and that of the rural population is decreasing, right? So this is a clear, uh, the clear reason behind this is the rural to urban migration, right? So a considerable number of people are shifting to urban, you can say centers in search of employment, right? So the this trend of rural to urban migration, incessant migration from rural to urban, which is this trend we are seeing. This trend is creating a lot of problems, right? lot of problems. So I have discussed it someday earlier also that one thing is that the unskilled persons who shift from rural to urban in search of employment, right? So they are mostly unemployable in the urban centers because the special type of requirements which are expected from an individual, right? Expected in an individual to make him fit for employment in the urban sector, those are lacking in the persons who are coming from the rural sector. So that is why sometimes they shift from the rural to urban, from village to the city, but they fail to get employment there, right? And that leads to frustration, and that frustration brings a lot many problems in the cities of our country. Like we are seeing that there is increased rate of crime in cities. That is a clear outcome of the frustration. And the most of the persons involved in those crimes are those who have migrated to those cities from the villages in search of employment. So one point is that, right? Second thing is that there are instances of chain snatching, purse snatching in the cities, drug trafficking, right? So many of the migrants who have shifted from villages to the cities, they have been involved in some illegal activity, right? So that activity may be that related with the human trafficking, right? That activity may be related with the drug trafficking, right? Or that may be related with some other illegal activity, like we can say supari killers, right? Gangsters, as etc., etc., right? So it is bringing an increase in the crime against women in the cities. If we see the instances of the rape incidents, right, those have increased in the cities over the over the past many years, right? So all of us must have heard about the Nirbhaya case, right? So the Nirbhaya case was a rape case, right? Where a college girl in Delhi was, you can say, raped and you can say, right, brutally, you can say, behaved in a very inhuman manner, right? And she lost her life, right? And the persons involved in that crime were also those who were the migrants to Delhi, right? So that is the another problem. And the another problem is increased pressure over the infrastructure of the cities, right? Which is not able to bear that much burden of the population. Increased problem of the slums in the cities, right? So a burden over the this transportation, public transportation, etc., etc., congestion of roads in the cities, etc., etc. Right. So such type of problems are also there. Problems of housing are there, right? So sanitation, sewerage, drinking water problems are there, right? So all these problems are due to the increased burden over the cities. So that was one problem, right? So another problem which was existing or which is still existing, that is the gender disparity, right? So gender disparity means at work, women are not treated at par with the men, right? Men are preferred at work. They are offered higher wages as compared to the women, right? So women, you can say this labor force participation rate is very low in our country, right? Number one, the employment opportunities were available in the urban centers only, and it was difficult for the rural women to shift to urban centers, right? So that is why their male shifted to urban center, and they had to stay back at their villages, right, to take care of the family land, to take care of the their that animals, right, or to take care of the children there, right? So that is why, so that type of trend, right, led to the more stress on the women, and uh, you can say disempowerment of the women also. So that is another problem, right? So, and rising unemployment, right, increasing poverty in the rural India, right? So these were a number of problems, right? And in the backdrop of which the government planned this Mandeka scheme, right? So the clear objective or the clear purpose of the Mandeka scheme was to, number one, to enhance the livelihood and we can say security, right, of the persons living in rural. So one thing was to enhance livelihood and security of those living in rural India, of those living in rural India. Okay, because the condition of employment in the rural India was very poor, and moreover, the nature of employment in rural India is of such type that there is only the seasonal employment in the villages of the country, because the main activity in the villages, that is the agriculture, farming, right, cultivation of crops, and in that activity there is the demand for manpower only seasonally. When it is the harvesting season, at that time there will be the demand from the human labor, right? Or when it will be the sowing season, there may be the demand of the this labor, right, human labor in the fields. Otherwise, in between, right, uh, the laborers, right, find it difficult to find a work, find a job in the villages, and that adds to their poverty. So that is why the first and the primary thing was to enhance livelihood and security of those living in rural India, because agriculture cannot support them. Agriculture can provide them only seasonal employment, and during the off seasons, right? So it was required to provide them some sort of work so that they may be able to make their both ends meet. They may be able to survive. They may be able to live a dignified life at least, right? So that is why the government planned to provide them work on their demand, right? So this was the first purpose of this scheme, right? And the second purpose of this scheme was the to create durable assets in villages, durable assets in villages, right? So this was the idea behind this, that the introduction of Manrega scheme will serve the dual purpose. On one hand, it will contribute into the development of the rural India, right, by creating the durable assets like wells, ponds, roads, canals, right, etc., etc. Right. So it means one is the construction of the durable assets in the rural villages, right, like ponds, right, like wells, right, their construction and their cleaning as well, right, canals for irrigation purpose. Okay, canals like flood control, etc., etc. And then this is there, right? And then it was the building of right roads or right roads or paths, right? So broadly I'm talking with you here. So such type of the creation of the durable assets was considered, right? So this type of creation of the durable asset, one, because the digging of the ponds or cleaning of the ponds, wells, canals, right? So that would be helpful in one way, that it has economic impact, it has economic significance, and on the, we can say, other side, it has the environmental significance also, right? Because digging of the ponds, cleaning of the wells, cleaning of the canals, right? So that would have environmental benefits. So that is good for the conservation of the natural resources in the villages, right? So, right, so if we clean the ponds, if we dig the ponds, if we build the ponds, construct the ponds, so that will help in rainwater harvesting, right? And that would help in the irrigation in the villages, right? So if that is done, so that will automatically lead to right improvement in the agriculture and improvement in the natural resources in the villages, right? So that would ultimately right conclude into the betterment of their lives, right? And similarly, building of roads, paths, etc., right? So because connectivity of villages with the cities, that is an important aspect, right? If you don't take the example of Punjab, there are many villages in UP, in Bihar, etc., etc., where the villages are still not connected by the proper roads or by the all-weather roads, right, with the towns or cities, right? So that is why when the connectivity is so poor, then how can we dream that we would be able to raise the standard of living of the people of those villages, right? Or to bring the people of those villages out of the poverty. So that was the point, right? So that means we can say that clearly there were these two purposes. One purpose was to enhance livelihood and security of those living in rural India, and the second was to create the durable assets in the villages. These were the two important things, right? So that is there. Right? So the next thing, the next topic which I told you, that was the employment, right? So of next to aim, there is the employment in Manrega, right? So as far as the employment in Manrega is concerned, right? So everybody knows that in Manrega, there is a guarantee of 100 days work in a year on demand, right? So in Mandeka, there is a guarantee of 100 days employment, right, on demand in villages of India, in villages of India. So this is if we see about the scene of the employment, we can see, right? And one more important thing here is that in this section, the villagers who would be hired for the work, right? So the work provided to them will be only unskilled work, and that will be manual work. Unskilled work and manual work would be there because this is important, right? So if we allow the work by machines there, then the problem would have remained the same because the purpose behind this is the generation of the employment. So that is why the more and more projects, the more and more jobs, the more and more work which is planned by the authorities, right? So that is kept labor oriented, right? Man oriented, manpower oriented, right? So not machine oriented or capital oriented, capital intensive, we can say, right? So labor intensive work is planned there, right? So that more and more people should be engaged in this, right? So this is there. Okay. So I have told you that guarantee of 100 days employment on demand in villages of India. 100 days employment to whom, right? To whom? It means to every household, which is important to remember here, right? To every household, right? Whose adult member, right? Whose adult member volunteers to do unskilled manual work, to do unskilled manual work. So this is an important thing, right? Again, it is written here that work will be unskilled, work will be manual, right? Any household, right? So, sorry, any individual belonging to any type of the household, right? So if he volunteers, right, to do this type of unskilled or manual work, so he can apply for the work and he would be given the work there. Okay, so that is the next important thing, right? So regarding the importance of the Mandeka, right? So World Bank in one of its reports, right? World Bank in one of its reports in 2014 has said about Mandeka that, right, the World Bank, I'm writing here, the World Bank termed Mandeka, right, termed Mandeka as as a stellar example, as a stellar example of rural development, right? Of rural development. So stellar, by stellar we mean the wonderful, right? Wonderful, beyond imagination, right? Excellent, we can say, right? So it means globally, right? So it has a you can say it has added to the goodwill of India, right? Because India has planned such a big program, such a huge program, right? Despite its economic status is still, uh, you can say, of a middle income country, right? So we are still a middle income country, right? So we are still poor. We still don't have adequate resources. We are still lacking the capital. But still, despite that, the government of India has planned such a big program under which, right, the rural uh, households or the members to the rural households, right, have been guaranteed to uh, work, right, have been guaranteed the work, right, on their demand. Okay, so this is an important point, next important point, which is there. And the next is the, that is the implementation of Manrega. The next point which we are going to discuss here today, that is the implementation of Manrega. Are you getting me, beta? Any problem to anybody? You can raise the question. Okay, so implementation of Mandeka, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. Okay, implementation of Mandeka. So as far as the implementation of Mandeka is concerned, the very important point here is that regarding its implementation, right, that we can say Mandeka is implemented by the Gram Panchayats, right? It is implemented by the Gram Panchayats. By the Gram Panchayats means it is the Gram Panchayat that is to conceive the project, right? That is to, you can say, make the details of the project, and that is to put the project to the before the government, send the project to the government, right? And after studying that project, then the funds are released for that particular project by the government, right? So it is not like that funds are always open, right? That anybody may come and withdraw and may start the work. No, first of all, they have to, you can say, plan the project, conceive the project, plan the project, develop the project, right? Then they have to put it before the government for its approval. And once it is approved by the government, then the funds are released and then the work starts, right? So this is how the things work, right? So implementation is by the Gram Panchayats, right? And the next important thing is that work through contractors is not allowed under Mandeka, right? Work through contractors is not allowed under Mandeka, right? So please bear this line. This is very much important line, right? Under Mandeka. Okay, so that means a contractor cannot come into picture in the Mandeka related jobs, right? In the Mandeka related projects, we can say, right? And the next thing is the special points, which are some important points about this Mandeka, right? So important points, we can write it here. Important points are related with Mandeka. So as far as the important points are related with Mandeka is concerned, right? The first and the foremost point, which is this, which is here related with Mandeka, is that, right? So work to be provided on demand. Work to be provided to applicant or job seeker, which is better to write here, job seeker on demand, right? So this is the first point, right, which is important here. And the second important point is that work is provided to an individual within a radius of 5 kilometers from his or her home, from her or his home, right? So whenever you apply for the job under Mandeka scheme, right, then it is the obligation of the panchayat to make it sure that the individual should be provided the work, right, within the radius of 5 kilometers from his residence. Okay, so that's an important point again here, right? And the next thing is that, minimum wages are to be granted, right? So minimum wages are to be guaranteed to the Mandeka, right? So that's also important. Okay, minimum wages are to be guaranteed to the Mandeka, right? So this is the next thing, right? And the next thing is that, right? So an applicant is required to be provided work, right, within 15 days of his, right, of his demand or of his application for work, right? Of his application. Within 15 days, it should be provided. So this is the next important point, right? And the next important point is that, right, so if the individual is not provided work within 15 days, right? If the individual not provided work within 15 days from the date of demand, right, from the date of demand, then she or he will be given certain amount as right, he will be given certain amount as we can say unemployment allowance. Unemployment allowance. Right? So that is important. It means within 15 days, the job has to be provided. If the government fails to provide the job, then within 15 days, right, of the date of application, the person had to be, you can say, provided the work, right? So that is the obligation of the panchayats, you can say there. Okay. So otherwise, the unemployment allowance will be given to that person, right? So these are the some of the important points about the Mandeka. And the next important thing you can write here or you can keep it in mind here that Mandeka is a centrally sponsored scheme. Please bear this in mind. Okay, Mandeka is a centrally sponsored scheme. Okay, Mandeka is a centrally sponsored scheme. Now, because Amrit is new in class today, that's why let me tell you that there are two types of schemes which are implemented by the center in the states, right? So one type of scheme is we can say that centrally sponsored scheme. I'm writing CS, right? One is the centrally sponsored scheme, okay, CSS here. And the second point is that, right, that is a central sector scheme. It is again CSS, right? So let me write it here that that is the central, okay, sector scheme. So these are the two important categories of the schemes there. As far as the central sector scheme is concerned, it is that scheme for which the entire burden is borne by the center government. And in case of the centrally sponsored scheme, which is this category, right? In this case, the burden of the cost of implementation of the project that is shared between the center and the states, right? That is shared between the center and the states. So this is an important point. Please bear this in mind that Mandeka is a centrally sponsored scheme. How is it a centrally sponsored scheme? That we'll discuss further when we'll come on the discussion on the funding pattern of the Mandeka scheme, right? So now the next important thing is that that is the benefits of the Mandeka scheme, right? Benefits of the Mandeka scheme, right? I think up to this point, it is clear to everybody that Mandeka is a rural employment guarantee scheme, right? Where the persons living in villages are provided employment on demand, right? For a minimum, right, 100 days in 1 year, right? So that 100 days may not be in a single stretch, right? So that 100 day may come in pieces, right? Let's suppose a person was given the employment for 20 days in the month of April, right? For 2 days only in the month of May, for 8 days in the month of June, for 30 days in the month of July, for 40 days in the month of August, etc., etc. So then in that case, right, so it should be the average, right? So now the benefit of the scheme, the first and foremost benefit of the scheme, right, that is quite apparent, quite visible to all of us, right? So that is the generation of employment. So Mandeka is such a scheme which generates employment. Okay, so one thing is the generation of employment. So please bear this in mind. Okay, so benefits can be asked to you, even those can be discussed in your examination as well. One is the generation of employment. Second is the construction of durable assets, right? Durable assets. This is the second thing, right? And third is we can say uh, helping in inclusive development, inclusive development, or we can say inclusion of the rural poor, right? Inclusive development. This is the next point, helping in inclusive development, right? And the next important thing is that, right, improvement in standard of living, improvement in standard of living of the rural poor, of the rural poor. Okay, that is there. And then thrust to village economy, thrust to village economy. That is there. All right. So standard of living, thrust to village economy, and then there is the protection of environment, because this is one of the important, you can say, provision, right, in this Mandeka, benefits of environment. Because first thing is that under the Mandeka, so whatever the projects are planned, projects are decided for the implementation, those work are done by the manual labor, not by the machines, right? So if the work is done by the manual labor, then it means there will be less consumption of the fossil fuels, diesel, petrol, etc. There will be less consumption of all those, right? So that is the good for environment, right? And apart from that, that digging of the wells, cleaning of the wells, cleaning of the ponds, right, keeping the ponds, wells, etc. in functioning, and the harvesting of the rainwater, etc., etc. Right. So all these things are important for the environment also, because harvesting of the rainwater, water, cleaning of the ponds, construction of the ponds, right, would lead to holding of more and more water, right? Instead of it is, you can say, allowed to run away, right? So when it is allowed to run away, then it enters into the seas, oceans, right, via the rivers, etc. Right. So if we will dig the ponds, repair the ponds, upgrade the ponds, construct the ponds, etc., etc., then more and more rainwater will be held in those ponds, etc. Right. So if more and more rainwater will be held in those ponds, so then you can say, right, so then that will help in the recharge of the groundwater table, right? And if the groundwater table is recharged, right, so that will lead to the improvement of the soil quality also, soil health also. So that means there is a very, you can say, interconnected process, right? So why we say that it is a important for the protection of the environment, right? And it is one of the purposes of the Mandeka also, right? So that is there. And then there is a empowerment of rural women, empowerment of rural women. How empowerment? Because the statistics suggest that every second woman among the Manrega job seekers, right? Every second individual is a woman. So it means women participation in the Manrega related work, that is nearly 50%, right? Little less than 50%. That is nearly 50%. So it means almost equal participation of female to the male, right? This witnesses that Manrega is instrumental in the betterment of the women conditions, right? Financial condition of the women. And Manrega is instrumental in the inclusion of the women. And Manrega is instrumental in the empowerment of the women. So that is important point, right? And the next point is that decentralized decision making, decentralized decision making, decision making. So decentralized decision making, because Mandeka allows the projects to be planned, shortlisted, right? Planned, shortlisted, developed, and implemented at the village level, right, under the supervision of the Gram Panchayat, right? And the audit is done by the Gram Sabhas, means social audit is done of the work, right? So that means what is this? This has led to the decentralized decision making. It is not like that it will be decided from the capital of the state that what is going to be done in the villages. No, right? So it is the village panchayat that can, in consultation with the Gram Sabha, right? So that can decide in itself that what type of projects are required for the village. So that this leads to the democratic decision making, right? And if there is democratic decision making, then it is a empowerment of panchayats also, right? Empowerment of panchayats also, right? So that is there, empowerment of panchayats also. And the next thing is that involvement of right, involvement of rural people in the democratic process, right, in the democratic process, because the Gram Sabha meetings are required to be held there, right? And the work of the this Mandeka related work is put there in the Gram Sabha meetings, right? So the work is required to be approved by the Gram Sabhas, and then audit is done by the Gram Sabhas, right? So all the things are done there in a democratic process, right? On the basis of the majority minority, right? So that, or by consensus at least, right? So this leads to the, you can say, involvement of the rural people in the democratic process, or at least the awareness of the democracy among the rural people, right? So it has a benefit in that way also, right? And the next important benefit of the project is that is to right, to addressing of the problem of addressing the problem of rural to urban migration, which we have just discussed today in the beginning of this lecture, right? Rural to urban migration. So this is what we have discussed today. You might be remembering this also, right? And next is that is the fostering social equity, right? Fostering social equity, right? Social equity, right? EQUITY, equity, right? Because it promotes the social equity. Everything, it is gender wise also, right? Because the job seekers in Manrega, right? About 50% of the job seekers are women, as I have told you, right? And apart from that, it is helpful in the rural upliftment, right? Because see, there are two categories of persons in the society. One category is this, right? So they are the rich people, right? They are the rich people. They pay the taxes to the government, right? They are rich people, okay, and pay taxes to the government. Okay. And there is another category of individuals, right? So they are, we can say, these type of people, right? So they are basically the poor people, okay? So they are the poor people, all right? And they are poor people and don't pay taxes, right? Because they are poor, right? They are poor, right? So in the preamble of the Constitution of India, right, we have made a commitment of promotion of equality or socialism also there, right? So now how Manrega contributes in that? As far as the contribution in Manrega is that the taxes collected from the rich, right? So this is, we can say, the uh, tax money, right? So this is, we can say, the consolidated fund of the country, right? What is known as the khazana, right? So this is the consolidated fund of the country, right? So what is there now? It's important to know here that these rich persons are contributing to the consolidated fund, right? And money from this consolidated fund, right, is allocated for the development of the villages, for providing employment to the rural poor, right? And in this way, what is this, right? Let's suppose the rich is here and the poor is here, right? And through the Mandeka, through the medium of Mandeka, the government is trying to push it up these poor, right? The right, and so that the gap between this rich and poor may be reduced, right? So we can say this is a very important role of Mandeka in fostering the social equity. I hope this point is clear to you. So these are the various benefits of Mandeka, right, which it is contributing in this way. All right. So now, after the benefits of Mandeka, we are moving further, right? So that what is the according to that, that is the budget allocation uh, for Mandeka, right? So that is the budget allocations for Mandeka. Are you comfortable with it? Any problem to anybody? Please tell me. Hello, are you comfortable? Are you getting what I am speaking? Or is there any problem in understanding, any language issue or any other issue? Please tell me. You can put a message here. Okay. Okay, so one of the student has put a message and the other students have not, you can say, told me that are they comfortable or not. Amrit, are you comfortable, beta? Are you getting what I am teaching? Aman, you please tell me. Okay, if there is any problem to anybody,
All
uh,
fine, sir.
you can ask, please. Okay, okay. So now, okay. So now the next, okay, Aman is there. Amrit, you have not responded. Are you not getting? Do you have
All
any
fine,
issue?
sir. All fine, sir.
Okay, all fine. Okay, beta. Okay. So now the budget allocation, right? So as far as the budget allocation is concerned, in the financial year ending 2020 means in the sorry 2021, right? So means we can say that in the year 2020-21, right, the total budget allocation for the Mandeka scheme, that was rupees 61,500 crore. 61,500 crore, that was the budget allocation, right? But the government had to revise these estimates. So that is why we can say that the revised allocation, right, to the scheme was that is rupees 1,11,500 crore, right? So that was the revised allocation because due to the corona, etc., the government had to made a number of adjustments in that year, right? And then in the year, in this year means 2021-22, right? The total allocation for Manrega, that is rupees 73,500 crores, right? So which is more than the initial allocation which was there in the 2020-21 budget, that was 61,500, but it is at least it is about 34.5% less than the revised allocation or revised estimates of the 2020-21 year, right? So this is important, right? So please bear this in mind. Okay, so it means 73,000 crore, right, have been allocated for this Mandeka this year. So now the next point, the next thing which is there, that is the funding pattern. Okay, that is the funding pattern, right? So in this funding pattern, we will discuss that how the expenditure of the Mandeka scheme is shared between the center and the states, right? How the expenditure of Mandeka is shared between the center and the state. This is what we mean by the funding pattern, right? So by funding pattern, we mean that how the expenditure is shared between the center and the states. Okay, the center and the states, how the expenditure is shared. Okay, so this is important. So as far as this is concerned, there are basically the three components of expenditure of Mandeka scheme, right? Three components of expenditure, right? So as far as the three components of expenditure is concerned, one component of expenditure is wages, and the second component expenditure, that is the material cost. Okay, and the third component of expenditure, that is, we can say, the administrative cost, right? That is administrative cost, right? So as far as the wages component is concerned, we can say there can be the three type of wage component, right? Though the large majority, because the workers, right, the job seekers who you can say sought employment, right? So they are unskilled, they are given the unskilled work, but there can be some skilled or some semi-skilled work also, right? So that is why we divide it into three categories. So one is into unskilled work, right? Unskilled wages or unskilled workers wages, and second is the semi-skilled workers wages, that is there, semi-skilled workers wages, right? And third can be, you can say, skilled workers wages, right? Skilled workers wages, right? So as far as this unskilled workers wages is concerned, right? So 100% uh, right is towards the wage expenditure is you can say borne by the central government, right? It means whatever the wage component, right, of the unskilled labor is concerned in the Manreka related work, the central government bears the 100% expenditure. State governments don't need to bear, right, any part of the wage component, right, in case of the unskilled workers, right? And as far as this, we can say semi-skilled and skilled workers case is concerned, right? So in this, further you can say share between the center and the states, right? So for center, I am writing here C, right? So C. So center shares 75% of the expenditure, right? And the state has to share 25% of the expenditure, right? The state has to share 25% of the wage expenditure. So I think it's clear to you, right? So 100% is borne by the center here, right? So please bear this in mind, right? So don't forget it, because such type of questions can be asked or even discussed in your interview also, or you need to provide such type of information in some essay or in some, you can say, question in the mains examination also. So as far as the material cost is concerned, right? So that material cost is shared by the center and states, right? So center. So first of all, let me tell you about center. Center bears 60% of the material cost, right? And the state needs to bear the rest of the 40% of the material cost of Mandeka related projects or Mandeka related work, right? So 40% is required to be borne by the state, right? That is there, right? So as far as the administrative cost is concerned, administrative cost is also borne between the center and state, right? So as far as this administrative cost is concerned, center bears 6% of the administrative cost, and the state is required to bear 94% of the administrative cost. So this is how the expenditure of the Manreka is borne by the center and the states, right? So I hope this is clear to you. There is nothing difficult. First of all, the total expenditure has been divided into three components. One of the component of the expenditure, that is wages. Second component is the material cost, and third component is the, we can say, administrative cost, right? So as far as the unskilled workers are concerned, right? So 100% wage component of the unskilled workers, or wage expenditure of the unskilled workers is borne by the center. States don't have to contribute anything towards it. And as far as the material cost is concerned, 60% of the total material cost is borne by the center, and 40% of the total material cost is borne by the states. And as far as the administrative cost is concerned, 6% is borne by the center and 94% is borne by the states. So this is about the funding pattern, right? So on this basis, we say that MNREGA is a centrally sponsored scheme, which I have told you earlier also, right? MNREGA is a centrally sponsored scheme. So please bear this in mind that MNREGA is a centrally sponsored scheme, right? So as far as the wage rate is concerned under MNREGA, right? As far as the wage rate is concerned. So this is again important to know, though it is not that much important for the preliminary point of view, but yes, it can be discussed during the interview, or there can be question in the mains examination, right? That do you think the wages provided under the MNREGA are sufficient enough to right, are sufficient enough to live a dignified life, right? So that can be the answer, that can be the question here, right? So right, so if not, then suggest measures, right? What could be done, right? So that can be there, right? So, and one more thing is there, right, that right, since more than one decade, right, in India, right, a job guarantee program is running by the government, right, by the government, but still on the you can say, right, poverty front, India is the poor performer, right? Still on the poverty front, or poverty reduction, in the poverty reduction efforts, India's record is poor. Why? Right? Because what is there? See what is there, right? Rupees 200 wage approximately, right? Because there is a some states are giving the wages approximately. Uh, Actually, the wage rate varies from state to state. It is between 135 and rupees 240, 14 at present, right? So in the World Bank poverty line is that dollar 1.90, dollar point 1.90. Let us say $2 approximately, right? So $2 means approximately 140 or 150 rupees, right? And an individual is giving the is given the wages, right, equal to approximately rupees 100, approximately rupees 200, right? So then why India is still poor, right? Then why, right, on the human development index, India's performance is low? All right, what are the reasons behind that? Because we have to look into that, we need to look into that, right? So this topic we will discuss tomorrow, not today, right? So despite that, right, we are still the poor performance performers, right, in terms of the human development. What is the reason behind that, right? So that is the point, right? So wages, so wage rate, as far as the wage rate is concerned, we can say that uh, the wage rate varies from state to state, as I am telling you, right? So it varies from you can say minimum rate, which is seen there, because some states are paying wages approximately at the rate of rupees 135, right, per day wages, and the maximum which is being paid, right, that is approximately 214 rupees per day, right? So wage rate varies between this, right? So because it is up to the states to determine, right? So varies between this. So now the next question is that now the next important point is that recently a you can say, right, a committee was constituted by the government to study about the Manrega wage rate, right? And that committee suggested that the per day per day wage rate, right, should be increased to rupees 347, right? But still that is yet to be implemented. That has not been implemented yet by the government. But the suggestion is there by a committee constituted by the government that the Manrega rate should be enhanced to rupees 347 per day, right? So if the rate is enhanced to rupees 347 per day, then there will be further implications, right? So I'm giving you one question, right? So you just try to apply your mind on this, right? Right. So we can say, right, uh, if if the if the wage rate under Mandeka is increased further, then what can be its implications? What can be or what could be its implications, right? Okay, so please try to write it, right? Try to write approximately 100 words on this, right? Not more than that, right? So I think because I just want to know, right, that how does your mind work? One is point. One is this point, right? So in which direction you think, right? So are you in the capacity to, right, cover the 360-degree domain of the topic or not? Right, where you are lacking, then I will tell you that you are lacking here, right? Because this is a platform, right, to learn, to know, right, to make up your shortcomings, right? This is a program for this is a platform for that, right? This is an opportunity for you. So that's why I'm telling you that try to write at least 100 words on this, right? That if the wage rate under Mandeka is increased further, then what could be its its implications, right? So give me promise that you will try to write the answer, right? You will try to write at least 100 words on this. Give me promise. Okay. So yesterday I gave some questions and only Nishant has responded positively to that, and the rest of the students have not yet responded positively. And similarly, Amrit, you are new in this class today, beta. So I suggest you that you should try to write approximately 100 words on this. That if the Manrega wage rate is increased further, then what can be its implications? What could be its implications, right? So please try to write the answer of this question.
सर एक्चुअली ना सर पहले लगता था सर कि जैसे कि ये क्वेश्चन है जो जनरलाइज क्वेश्चन होते हैं कि व्हाट आर द इम्प्लीकेशंस एंड एटसेट्रा की मतलब करप्शन, लेकिन सर जब लिखने बैठते हैं सर फिर एक आध पॉइंट ही आता है सर दिमाग में, सिर्फ बस करप्शन ही पॉइंट आता है जाके वहां पे।
वही
फिर सर
रहता है,
फिर
वही
सर
रहता है।
ब्रॉनस्टॉर्मिंग बहुत मुश्किल हो जाती है सर। मेरे को कल 5-6 पॉइंट ढूंढने में सर बहुत ज्यादा सर सोचना पड़ा, बहुत ज्यादा
Yes,
सोचना पड़ा।
yes. That is why, beta, I'm telling you that that this is the right time for you now to do the practice.
यस सर। सर देख के सर वो ऐसे लग रहे थे क्वेश्चन की सर बिल्कुल जनरल क्वेश्चन है, सिंपल एकदम हो जाएंगे कि क्यों
Yes,
ठीक से नहीं हो पा रहा, लेकिन सर दिमाग में जाके सर एक ही पॉइंट आता है बस लास्ट में कि पुअर इंप्लीमेंटेशन और करप्शन, उसके अलावा सर कोई पॉइंट आता ही नहीं है।
yes.
फिर
That is why,
बहुत ज्यादा
beta.
सोचना पड़ता है सर।
Yes, beta. That's why I'm telling you that, right? So utilize this time optimally, right? So this is the time to, you can say, develop your strengths, right? And to, uh, right, make up your shortcomings, to cover
यस
up your
सर,
shortcomings. So,
श्योर सर श्योर। और सर
okay.
कंडेंस करने में बहुत प्रॉब्लम होती है सर, मैंने वो तीनों के तीनों क्वेश्चन 200 वर्ड से ऊपर पहुंचा दिए आई गेस।
Okay. Yes, Peter, that is also important because you need to, right, remain within the limitations also, right? Let's say 10% इधर उधर हो जाए, तो that's not a problem, right? And Peter, one more thing, you don't need to reach 200 words even, right? So if I have told you, right, 200 words, because Peter, that is the maximum length of your answer, right? So if you are able to finish your right? You can say entire content, or if you are able to finish your talk, right, only in, you can say, 150 words, even then that would be sufficient, but that should be the quality content.
Yeah, sir. Yeah, exactly. I got it. So
Okay.
actually, the thing was that, sir, I was writing for the first time. These three were the first three answers that I wrote. So that was the problem, sir. Basically,
Yes, yes, yes,
that,
yes, yes. The problem would
there
be
was a, yeah, sir. There was the inertia of writing. That's why.
yes.
So
So that is why
basically,
I was asking you, na, that please start it, please start it, please start it.
yeah, sir. From yesterday onwards, I promised myself that I would write whatever you give. From
Yes,
that
yes,
day, I will
yes,
write, sir.
yes.
Sir, after
Okay.
analyzing the questions, after reading once or twice, I felt that in the introduction part, I am writing too much. For example, the question in the first question that you asked about, despite the fact that India is running world's largest free lunch program,
Yeah.
it is still stunted, having the stunted at the waste of children. What could be the reason for that? Can you explain that? So, sir, I realized that I am writing too much about the MDMS, which is not as per asked in the question. The thing that is asked is why it is not implemented.
Yes.
So I think I need to work on that. Otherwise, you also please provide me the inputs that
Yes, I
how.
will. Yes, yes, I will also provide, right, inputs, please. So the next thing is that who is eligible for work under Mandeka? Who is eligible for work under Mandeka? Okay. So this is another important point. Who is eligible for work under Mandeka? So as far as this part is concerned, right? So one thing is that for a person to become eligible to work under Mandeka, the first thing is that he should be a citizen of India, because this is not available to the non-citizens. First thing is that, right? Second thing is that he should be living in rural, right? Villages, right? Rural person, right? And the third important thing is that he must not be less than 18 years of age, right? So not less than 18 years of age. So that is also an important line, right? 18 years of age. Okay. So these are the three qualifications. One qualification is that you should be citizen. Second qualification is that you must belong to a village. And the third qualification is that you should not be less than 18 years of age, right? And next is that, right? So when an eligible person or individual, right, applies for a job, applies for a job under Manrega, right, under Manrega, right? So she or he is issued a job card. Right? She or he is issued a job card. So this is the thing right here, and so this is about the eligibility. Right, so three eligibilities are important. I think you must be knowing about the eligibilities already, because this is a very common scheme of the government, right? So the next thing is that from Narega to Manrega, right? From Narega to Manrega. Okay, so actually, initially, when the scheme was implemented, the name of the scheme was Narega. Okay, the initial name of the scheme was Narega. Was Narega, right? That is there. The and the act which was initially passed, that was also Narega Act, National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, right? But the scheme was renamed with effect from October 2, 2009. Okay? The scheme was renamed with effect from October 2, 2009 by making an amendment to the NREGA Act, right? So National Rural Employment Guarantee Act was amended in the year 2009, and from October to 2009, the NREGA scheme was renamed as a MNREGA. So please bear this in mind, right? So the next thing is that type of work which is allowed under the scheme. The type of work which is allowed under the scheme. Okay, type of work. So one thing is very much clear that the work should be unskilled manual work, right? But still there are certain categories, right, as far as the type of work is concerned, right? So regarding those certain categories, we can say that the first, right, regarding that those certain categories, I would like to say, right? So there are approximately 10 broad categories, right? 10 broad categories of work, right? Right. So approximately what is there in those broad categories, right? So I'm not going to write the point wise things, right? So I'm telling you in general that one is the work related to watershed improvement, right? And one is we can say that, right? So work related to irrigation and flood management, right? So irrigation and flood management related works. Okay, irrigation and flood management related works. So that is the next year. Okay, and the third type of works which can be there, we can say that is, we can say agriculture and livestock related works. Agriculture and livestock related works, right? That can be there, right? And the next category of works can be, we can say, okay, so that is, we can say fisheries and works in coastal areas, right? Fisheries can be there, and then works related to coastal areas, that is there, right? And then works related with the that rural drinking water related works. Okay, so that's the rural drinking water related works that can be there, right? Related works, and then sanitation related works there, right? There can be works related with sanitation, that is there, right? And then there can be works related with the, that is, we can say first time toilet construction. Such type of projects can be there, right? Like first time toilet construction, right? So that was added later on into this first time toilet construction, that is there, right? And similarly solid and liquid waste management related projects can be there. So there can be a variety of projects there. Liquid management, liquid waste management, sorry, related products can be there. Okay, so these are the various projects which can be launched, which can be picked up under this, right? And but here one important thing is that uh, that we can say, right? So the work is uh, approved by the Gram Sabha, right? Gram Panchayat uh, puts up a proposal, right? And the Gram Sabha approves the work, right? Approves the work. And there can be a number of proposals, right? We can do this, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this, right? So then it is the Gram Sabha that would prioritize the work, right? First let us do this work, right? So the work is prioritized by the Gram Sabha, right? So it means Gram Panchayat in consultation with the Gram Sabha decides about the project that which needs to be picked up, right? The various proposals are discussed before the Gram Sabha, in the Gram Sabha, and then accordingly the projects are, we can say, prioritized, right? But here one important thing is that in the center we know that the executive is the prime minister and his council of ministers, that is known as the executive, right? Apart from the bureaucrats also, those are also known as the executives, right? But the elected executive, that is the prime minister and his council of ministers, right? And there is a body which is known as the parliament, right, to control the elected executive, that is the prime minister and his council of ministers, right? So at state level also, there is a chief minister and his council of ministers, and there is a elected body which is the Vidhan Sabha, right? So that is to, you can say, exercise control, that is to control the elected executive, that is the chief minister and his council of ministers, right? And at ground level, village level, right? So Gram Sabha is like the parliament, right? Is like the parliament which approves rules, which approves regulations, right? So which approves the decisions, right, of the panchayat, right? So you can say panchayat needs to consult the Gram Sabha on various matters, right? So, and the panchayat acts like the uh, elected executive, right? Like there is the prime minister and council of ministers at the center level, there is the chief minister and council of ministers, and at the village level, the elected executive, we can say, that is the sarpanch and panchas, right? They are the elected executive, and the Gram Sabha acts like the parliament, right? Acts like the legislature, which is there at the center level or at the state level. So this is the a wonderful relationship, right? We can say, okay, what is nominal there? Nominal means who is nominal? Nishan? Okay, president governor. No, beta, there is nothing like this, right? President governor, there is nothing like this, right? At panchayat level, there is nothing like this. Okay, so this is an elected body, right? So I was just making your task easier to remember, right? That like the government in center, like the government in state, similar model is there at the ground level, right? Where there is one is Gram Sabha, which acts like the parliament, and another is the elected elected executive. I told you that, right? Nominal, I have not uh, right talked about there. So that's why. Okay. So we have discussed about the type of work as well, right? So the next thing is that Manrega and CSR. CSR means corporate social responsibility, right? So Manrega and CSR. CSR means corporate social responsibility, right? So because Amrit is new today, so I don't think because his subject is also quite different. That is he is from science background, right? So this CSR means corporate social responsibility, right? So okay, no, he is non-medical, BSc non-medical. So corporate social responsibility. Okay, so as far as the corporate social responsibility is concerned, what is the concept related with the corporate social responsibility? First of all, let me tell you about that. Right? So corporate social responsibility means the entrepreneurs, the companies, which are the corporates, we can say, right? So those are uh, developing or those are enlarging their sizes at the cost of the society, right? The society has to bear for that, right? So the society has to bear for that, right? So let me give an example. Let's suppose there is a very big uh, thermal power plant in a particular area, right? So that thermal power plant is operated by a private company or a government company, let's suppose, right? And that private company is earning the profit by selling the electricity, by producing and selling the electricity, right, in that plant. Uh, but uh, but but that is not for only those people who are living in the villages nearby the plant or surrounding the plant, right? But those people are neither given the free electricity, those people are neither given any other special benefit, but still they have to bear the right pollution which has been created by that large thermal power plant, right? So it means the thermal power plant running company or owning company is earning the profits at the cost of the health of the individuals who are living in the surrounding villages, right? So that means it is the social responsibility of that thermal power plant running company that they should bear certain cost out of their profits, certain share, right? And they should spend that money on the welfare of the society, right? So that the cost which the society has borne, right, to allow the operation of that project, right, should be compensated, right, uh, under the, you can say, uh, or in the form of the social benefit which is being created by that firm by spending some part of their profit, right? And similarly, let's suppose there is one nuclear uh, plant, right? So which has been installed at some place, right? So the people who are living surrounding that plant, they are at very high risk, right? That they are at very high risk, right? So that is why, right? So they bear the risk in various, you can say, forms, right? So that is why it is the responsibility of that nuclear plant company or nuclear plant owner, right, to share it or to, you can say, right, park away a certain portion of their profits, right, uh, right, to improve the welfare of the people who are suffering due to that nuclear power plant. Okay, so this is the concept of the corporate social responsibility. Okay, so this has been recognized under the Companies Act, right? So under section 135 of the Companies Act, right? Companies Act. Okay, so the CSR, corporate social responsibility, has been made mandatory. So please note this line. Under section 135 of the Companies Act, corporate social responsibility has been made mandatory, right? Corporate social responsibility has been made mandatory. Mandatory not for all companies, right? For the companies who are uh, of or beyond a certain right size, right? So as far as the certain size is concerned, what is there? There are three criteria of the certain size which I am telling you. One criteria is the net worth of the company, right? And second criteria is, we can say, the turnover of the company, right? And the third criteria is the net profit of the company, right? Is the net profit of the company. So there are three criteria. One criteria is the net worth. Okay, one criteria is the net worth of the company, and the Second criteria, there is the turnover of the company. Okay, and the third criteria there is, that is the net profit of the company. Okay, so I hope you are clear about this net profit. You are clear about the turnover, and what about the net worth? Are you clear about the net worth also, or is there any problem, or should I elaborate the point of net worth? Do you need its elaboration, or are you clear on this? Tell me immediately. Hurry up.
So please elaborate in brief.
Okay. I'm elaborating. But a net worth, what is net worth, right? Net worth means because you might have heard about the concept of this, you can say this thing. This is the balance sheet of a company, let's suppose, right? In this side, there is the capital and the liabilities of the company, right? And on this side, there is the assets of the company, right? So capital and liabilities are equal to the assets. It's always there, right? So beta, what is there? This capital means not only the money which you have invested, right? It includes the reserves also, it includes the profits also, right? Undistributed profits also, etc., etc. So many things can be there. So now beta, what is there, right? Assets minus liabilities of the company, right? Minus liabilities of the company. So that is known as the net worth of the company, right? Net worth of the company, right? So let's suppose you are running a company of the cost of 100 crore, right? And out of that 100 crore, you owe rupees 60 crore to outsiders. So that means after deducting that rupees 60 crore, but yours in that company, that is only rupees 40 crore, and that is the net worth of your company. Okay. So this is the concept of the net worth, right? So now, so as far as the criteria of net worth is concerned, right? So in this respect, the net worth of the company, if it is rupees 500 crore or more, right? So it is applicable. CSR clause will be applicable for those companies, or or if the turnover of the company is rupees 1000 crore or more. Okay, 1000 crore or more if the turnover of the company is that, right? Or net profit, right? So if the net profit of company is 5 crore or more, right? So these are the three criteria, right? So if if let's suppose the criteria one is applicable on you, right? So corporate social responsibility will be mandatory for you. If two is applicable on you, one and three are not, even then that is mandatory for you. If you are earning net profit of rupees 5 crore or more, even then that is mandatory for you. Okay. So this is there, right? So as far as the, let's suppose my company, right, is eligible, or my company is under this compulsion that my company has to, you can say, spend money as corporate social responsibility, right? So then how much money I need to spend on that, right? So as far as it is there, that is the 2% of, right, 2% of average profit, average profit of, right, 2% of average profits of 3 years, right? 3 years, right? So it will be seen that 3 years, right? So let's suppose we are talking about this year 2021 has just ended, right? So we are talk, so it means what is there, right? So the profit earned by my company in the year 2020, 2021, right? Profit earned by my company in the year 2019 or 2022, and the profit earned by my company in the year 2018 and 2019, right? So the average of these 3 years profits, right? So let's suppose, right, in this year, right, I earned rupees 100 crore profit, right? And in this year, my profit was rupees 40 crore. right? And in this year, my profit was rupees 20 crore, let's suppose. So the total profit has become rupees 160 crore, right? So what is the average of this 160 crore? It will be divided upon 3. All right, so that will become 53.33 crore, right? So that will be the average profit, right? So what is there? Then I have to, right, spend 2% of this 53.33 crore, right? I have to spend, right, in under the corporate social responsibility. So this is how the companies need to spare funds, right? So, okay, so this is how the corporate social responsibility funda or phenomena works, right? So as far as the corporate social responsibility is concerned, because we have to link it with the Mandeka we know that under the Mandeka, the various acts which are undertaken, those are acts related with the rural development, those are acts related with the construction of the durable assets in the villages, and those are the projects related with the generation of employment, and those are the projects related with the environment conservation in the rural sector, right? So though we can say directly it is not mentioned anywhere that corporate social responsibility funds can be spent for Manrega, right? Directly it is not mentioned, but yes, if we see the Schedule 1 of the Companies Act, right? If we see the Schedule 1 of the, Schedule 7 of the Companies Act, right? Schedule 7 of the Companies Act mentions about this, all right? Schedule 7 of the Companies Act. So as far as the Schedule 7 of the Companies Act is concerned, right? So this schedule allows, we can say, right? So it allows CSR funds, okay, CSR funds to be used for, okay, poverty reduction, to be used for poverty reduction and rural development also. Poverty reduction and rural development also, it is there, rural development also, right? So such as what are the various projects, right? Such as, so number one, right, it is clause 1 of the 7th schedule which is mentioned there, right? So according to this clause 1, what is there? Eradicating hunger, eradicating hunger. So CSR money can be spent for eradicating hunger, poverty, right? Poverty and malnutrition, malnutrition, right? And malnutrition, right? Promoting preventive health care, promoting preventive health care, okay, preventive health care and sanitation, preventive health care and sanitation, and making available safe drinking water, and making available safe drinking water. So beta, this is very important point, right? Safe drinking water, because question related with the corporate social responsibility is very much important question. Or the second thing is that the question can be asked, all right, that uh, is there any provision that the corporate social responsibility funds can be diverted for the rural development, right? So such type of question, or poverty reduction क्या divide हो सकते हैं, कहाँ है? So such type of questions can be asked, right? So eradicating, one is the eradicating hunger, poverty, malnutrition, and second is promoting preventive health care and sanitation, and making available safe drinking water. So this is mentioned there in clause 1 of the Schedule 7 of the Companies Act, right? And next to this is there in Schedule 4 of the in clause 4 of the 7th schedule of the Companies Act, it is mentioned that the corporate social responsibility funds can be spent for ensuring environmental, right? Ensuring environmental sustainability. Okay, ensuring environmental sustainability, right? Ecological, we can say ecological balance, right? Ecological balance, protection of flora and fauna, right? Flora and fauna means plant and animal species, right? Protection of flora and fauna, right? Animal welfare, that is right. Next, agroforestry, right? Agroforestry, conservation of natural resources, conservation of natural resources, okay, of natural resources, and maintaining quality of maintaining quality of soil, water, and air. Soil, water, and air. Right? So this is the next possibility, right, which has been mentioned there. Okay, so it is mentioned there. And then after this, in clause 10 of the same schedule, right, so it is mentioned that corporate social responsibility funds can be utilized for the rural development projects, right? Rural development projects. So this is where the Companies Act, right, allows the utilization of the corporate social responsibility funds for the betterment of the rural sector of Indian society, right, or rural sector of Indian economy, right? So please bear these 2 3 points in mind, because you will not find these points anywhere in any book, right, which is specifically written for the civil services examination. But the questions, such type of questions can be asked, because what I am telling you, these are very simple, sorry, very common things, very normal things, right? So these are not very deep type of things, if you will say that, right? So these are very deep. We are not going to do the PhD. This is not required for us. It's not like that, right? So every word of the lecture counts, right? So you can't afford to miss any word of this lecture, right? Every lecture what I deliver to you, and even whatever the literature I am writing, though it is in the form of the book, though it is in the form of other way which I will provide you, right? So you can say, so every word of that literature would also matter, right, as far as the examination is concerned. So that is why every word matters, right? You can't afford to skip even a single word of the lecture, right? So this is your responsibility to uh, right, to mind it, right? So this was there about this particular thing, right? So which we have discussed so far, right? So the next important thing is that, right, so which I want to share with you, right? So there was a report, there was a study which was published in the Kurukshetra magazine, right? Which was published in the Kurukshetra magazine in 2014, right? So what was there? Right. So this is another important thing in the context of Manrega, which I'm going to share with you. Right. So the this report was published in Kurukshetra magazine in 2014. So what is there? According to that report, India's population, right? India's population in 1951, right? In 1951 was, you can say, was 17%. India's urban population. I'm writing here. India's urban population in in 1951 was 17% of the total population, and and it is expected to increase to it is expected to increase to 42% in 2025, right? So this is very important point, very important statistics here. And the second related thing which was there, right? So in the same report that is there, right? So the biggest reason behind this is the biggest reason behind this is the rural urban migration. Okay, the biggest reason behind this is the rural urban migration. Okay, is the rural urban migration. Okay, so this is important point here, right? And the next thing which is there that over the 50 years, right? Over the 50 years in the past, right? Over the 50 years, right? India's rural population, India's, sorry, India's rural population, okay, decreased. India's rural population decreased from 82%, decreased from 82% to 68.9%. Okay, to 68.9%. Right, so that is important there. Okay, so the next thing is that, right, so now we need to think on this that right, so the direct question can be there that right, according to the various studies, right, according to the various studies and statistics, right, and statistics, right, the share of urban population, share of urban population in India's total population, in India's total population is increasing, while that of the rural population, while that of the rural population is on decline, is on decline, right? Why? What are the reasons according to you? Right, so this can be a two-pronged question. One is the what are the reasons behind this, and second, suggest a strategy to check this trend. And third, what are the consequences of this trend? Right. So basically there are three questions. Right. So one question is why this trend. Second question is what are the consequences of this trend? And third question is suggest a strategy to reverse this trend or to check this trend, to stop this trend. Okay, so these are the three questions. Have you noted it down? Hello, have you noted it down? These are three questions.
Yes, sir.
Okay, these are three questions. Okay, you should try all the three questions. Okay, so I'm telling you. So now with what is there, right? So as we are discussing that what are the various reasons behind this trend, that why this is happening. All right, so why this is happening, right? So one thing which is we are discussing, that is we can, sorry. So one thing which is we are discussing, all right, that is the we can say that rural to urban migration. See, main thing is the rural to urban migration. Why? One is the employment, right? One is the employment. This is the main reason, right? That is the employment, because people are shifting from rural to urban due to the employment, or some people are shifting from rural to urban because of the better living conditions there, right? Better living conditions there, better living conditions or education of their children, right? Or education of their children. So this is the next point, right? Why this is increasing, right? And the third point can be there, right? That some Okay, that some we can say that some freelancing professionals like doctors, engineers, all etc., software person professionals, right? Freelancing professionals, right, are shifting to the urban, right? So they are also shifting to the urban. This is the another point, right? And the next point is that what is there, right? So there is a, you can say, in cities life expectancy is comparatively higher, right? Life expectancy is higher, right? So let me write this point here, right? Life expectancy is higher, okay? Health status is better, health status is better, and therefore incidence of deaths is low as compared to the rural tractor, right? Incidence of deaths is low, right? Mortality rate low in urban as compared to the rural, right? So this is the point which I'm connecting from here to here, right? So that you must think that this point I have written here, right? So this point and this point, okay? So life expectancy is higher, health status is better, and therefore incidence of deaths is low. That is there, right? And moreover, what is there? Due to the right neonatal, better neonatal care and care of mother during the pregnancy, right? So we can say the infant mortality rate in the urban is also less as compared to the rural, right? Number of stillbirths is also low in urban as compared to the rural, right? So that means uh, in the urban sector of the society, why the population is growing? One major cause, right? There is no doubt. One major cause is the rural to urban migration. One cause is there. Why that rural to urban migration? We can count the points, right? Employment, education, right? Freelancing professional who are shifting their, people are shifting there for the purpose of the business also. There are better economic opportunities also. So these are the various things, right? And similarly, right? So these are the points, right? And apart from that, there is the another factor, right? So, right? So which we are talking about here, that is the, yes, beta, infrastructure is also there. Infrastructure is a pulling factor, we can say, right? Is a pulling factor because beta, when we study the rural urban migration, right? So then please keep in mind there are some pulling factors, attractions in the urban area, and there are some pushing factors in the rural, right? So you need to focus on those we can say push and pull factors, right? So pushing factors are pushing people from the rural towards the urban, right? And pulling factors are pulling people from the rural towards the urban, right? So push and pull factors, right? So pull factors are there in villages. Sorry, push factors are there in villages, and pull factors are there in the cities, right? So you need to right discuss it in that manner, right? Push and pull factors. So please be the, so that will make your job easier, right? So if you will, right, take it that way, push and pull factors. That what are the pushing factors in the villages and what are the pulling factors in the cities, right? So that will make your job easier, right? So we are discussing that one is this migration, and second is the life expectancy, and this right number of stillbirths and uh, mortality, infant mortality rates are low, right? So due to which the urban population is increasing, right? And the next most important thing that in the modern times, right, in the modern times, right, there is a new wave of migrants which is coming from rural to the urban. Those are called the environmental refugees, right? So environmental refugees is a new term, right? Who are coming from the villages to the cities, right? So environmental refugees, we can say, right? So it is making the situation worse, right? So because the thing is that in the wake of this global warming, in the wake of this climate change, right? So because the villages are entirely based on the agriculture, village economy is based on agriculture, right? And there are increased instances of the droughts, number one, right? So first of all, let me tell you that there are increased instances of the disturbances in the rainfall pattern, right? So we are all seeing, right, that the rainfall patterns have been disturbed, right? So due to which there are the increased instances of the drought, there are increased cases of the soil erosion, right, due to the heavy floods, due to the heavy rains. Because the point is that one is the rainfall patterns are changing, right? And second is what is there that entire season's rainfall, right, we can say, right, pours in a very short, you can say, duration of time. Let's suppose it is in 15 months, 15 days, right? So entire season's rainfall, right, occurs in 15 days only. So that leads to heavy floods and soil erosion and all these things, right? That is there. That is the point, right? So that's there. And apart from that, there is, we can say, increased desertification, right? Because the water table is receding everywhere. So due to the receding water table, we can say, right? So the uh, fields are turning into the deserts, right? So I have told you earlier also that in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, there is certain region, right? So which has converted into the desert, which has converted into a desert, right? Earlier, that was a very, very rich region as far as the agriculture was concerned, right? So soy crop, right? That was there, right? So now what is there, beta? So the movies which were, right, earlier you can say, right, we can say shot there in the Rajasthan desert. So now they are using that area, right? So it means there are instances of increasing desertification, right? And then what is there? Deforestation is also one of the reasons which is making the uh, situation worse, right? And then there are the environmental disasters, right? So due to all these things, right, heavy floods, soil erosion, desertification, droughts, etc., etc., right? So due to all these things, right, the opportunities in the rural sector, right? So those are falling down, and the pushing factors in the rural sector are becoming stronger, right? And that is why there is a new wave of migrants from rural to urban who are called the environmental refugees. And this is also one reason that due to which the urban population is increasing in these days, right? And that is why government of India is focusing too much, right, on the, we can say this national urban mission or like that, right? Improving the urban centers, improving the city conditions, right? So that is the point, better. Okay, so we have discussed so many things in today's lectures about Manreka, right? So, but still something is remaining, right? So that I will take in the tomorrow's lecture, right? So, any doubt to anybody, right? Anything you want to ask? if you have any doubt, you can please ask, right? Because Peter, whatever I am teaching, so I can tell, I can't say you that it is entirely economy, right? So it is social problems also we are discussing, right? Paper 1, paper 3 we are discussing, paper 2 also we are discussing, essay paper also we are discussing, right? So that the preliminary uh, part we are also discussing, right? Ethic, ethics points we are also discussing. No? So that is why you cannot say that, right, sir, to which paper it is related, right? So this is a whole something. So I'm discussing everything, right, from a very broad perspective, right? So just to provide you more and more, right, feedstock, right, for the purpose of your UPSC paper. Okay. So, but feel free always, sorry, feel comfortable always to ask any question from me, right? So I will try to answer all of your questions, right? So I will try to address your every query, but still I am a human being. I'm not God that I know each and everything, right? So that is the thing. So, okay, then anything else you want to say? Now it is your turn to speak.
Thank you, sir. It was a wonderful lecture.
Okay, okay, beta, okay.
Like it covers points related to the migration and urbanization, etc. Also.
Right, right, right. So many things have been covered, right? So two, three questions from the mains point of view have been discussed in today's
Yeah,
lecture.
sir. These terms are exclusively mentioned in the paper three.
Yes, yes, yes,
Urbanization, etc.
yes, yes, yes. So beta, that's why, right? So I suggest you to revise this lecture at least once, right?
Sure,
So,
sir. Sure, sure, sir.
so yes, if you will be
सर
having,
कल वाला अपलोड हो गया लेक्चर?
हाँ मैंने कर दिया था, कल ही कर दिया था.
एक्चुअली ना सर लिंक नहीं आया था ना, इसलिए दैट्स व्हाट.
नो एक्चुअली ना कल मैंने वो यूट्यूब
पब्लिक
वगैरह
किया था?
पे,
पब्लिक
नहीं
किया था?
नहीं, हाँ नहीं मैंने किया, पब्लिक है, लेकिन वो ना मैंने पहले की तरह मतलब वो मैंने आपके मतलब व्हाट्सएप पे या टेलीग्राम पे मतलब मैंने लिंक वैसे नहीं पोस्ट किया वो.
ओके सर, ओके ओके ओके, आई विल चेक इट
हाँ,
आउट, आई विल चेक
हाँ
इट
वो
आउट.
हो सकता है वो अगर आपने चैनल सब्सक्राइब किया होगा तो फिर वो आपके पास नोटिफिकेशन आई
या
होगी.
सर नोटिफिकेशन आ गया होगा.
हाँ नोटिफिकेशन देख लेना, राइट? सो अमृत आप भी बेटा देख लेना, ठीक है? आई थिंक यू हैव यू सब्सक्राइब दैट चैनल?
Yes, sir.
ओके ओके, तो आप भी देख लेना, ठीक है? तो today's lecture I will also upload, right, in the next 2-3 hours.
श्योर सर, श्योर, थैंक यू.
Okay beta,
So
take please.
the lectures that I have missed out.
Beta, those will be covered later on, don't worry about anything. Okay.
Okay, okay,
Yes,
sir.
yes. So beta, you need to focus on today's work, right? So do you face any problem in today's work?
No, sir.
uh, then leave everything on me. Okay,
Okay, sir.
don't worry. Okay beta, take care.
Okay, sir.
So I'm taking leave now. Okay.
यस सर, थैंक यू.
Okay, okay.